Welcome to Churches and Charity by Missions Filled, the podcast where we explore the powerful ways churches and charities are partnering to transform communities. In our last episode, we introduced you to the mission of Missions Filled and how we're empowering churches to make a greater impact. Today, we're diving into a topic that's at the heart of our work partnerships. We'll hear inspiring stories of collaboration and discuss why working together is the key to lasting change.
Hey guys, how you doing? We're back with Churches and Charity for our second episode, season 1. Today we have a special guest with us, and today we're going to talk about how we want to unite to impact schools and youth in our community. So without further ado, we have a special guest, Justin Sheehan. If you don't mind sharing who you are, what you do.
Adam, I appreciate it, brother. By day, I'm the executive director of the Lansing Promise, just scholarship program for every kid that attends within the Lansing school district boundaries. More importantly, I'm a husband, father of 3, and I have the privilege of sitting on and serving on several boards around the city, including Lansing Empowerment Network, Our Space Foundation, and the Michigan Promise Zone Association, as a few.
It's awesome. What is your organization well known for? So that people can know what you do.
Yeah, it's an important question. I would say scholarships, but I think it's deeper than that. So we believe, right? And what we've come to over the last decade is the following statement. At the Lansing Promise, we believe in the inherent worth of every young person in this city, and so we invest accordingly. Right? Imagining a community where every young person has the opportunity to dream, ability to thrive, and the love, support, and investment needed to build a brighter future for themselves, their families, and their community. And that's all well and good, but the question is, what do we truly then invest in? And it's through scholarships, it's through readiness, getting them ready for scholarships, and then ultimately completion, making sure they not only complete a post-secondary credential, we really want to see them into their careers, and ideally in this community. Yeah,
I mean, that's very important. I know the wellness of and wealth of students are very important. You guys kind of focus on multiple aspects of that, not just one element and the ecosystem of that, so that they have ultimately health and wellness in their lives, and generations that they also will influence through spaces that they are placed into. So what are some key partners that you guys might have worked with in the past, whether in the faith space or in the community space?
Well, you actually said a really important statement when we talk about partners, which is ecosystem. Organizations that we formally and fully partner with, the Lansing School District being number 1.
Definitely, yeah.
Right? We have nonprofit organizations across the city if they do mentorship, like Lansing Empowerment Network or the Village Lansing. Right? Folks like All the Above Hip Hop Academy, right? Or Reach Studio Art Center. Yeah. Right? Organizations like Missions Filled. Organizations that are both faith-based and non-faith-based, because the reality is, as long as folks believe in the inherent worth of our kids and they want to invest accordingly, then it's game on. So any organization that believes in our kids like we do, there's a good chance we've worked with them at some point or another, or that we will. Because as you said earlier, we have a common goal. We want to see our kids succeed. Right. Now within that, if we were going to identify key partners in the Promise work directly, Lansing School District, because every single kid that graduates from there, if they live, attend, and graduate, they're eligible for a scholarship. Yeah. That's a big deal. Yeah. Right? And so LCC, major partners. So Lansing Community College, and anywhere between 70 and 80% of our kids in any given year. And so those students go debt-free when it comes to the Promise, because we cover all books, all fees, all course fees, all tools, supplies. And so kids can really do almost anything they want there, right? They're getting their associate's degrees, they're getting licenses, they're getting credentials, they're beginning their skilled trades journeys, right? We have partnerships with many of our unions and skilled trades programs around the city, and we're continuing to add every year. And so we know that we want our kids to have careers. If there are students that want to go to 4-year institutions, we've got Michigan State University, Lovette, and Davenport. And of course, the world is your oyster when it comes to picking a major there. And then finally, we have Douglas J, which is cosmetology, estheology, and the like. we want our kids to find the fit that works for them.
Yeah.
And so it's all of these partners. But what we're finding too is it's one thing to have partners. It's another thing to have partners who actually agree upon a common direction.
Uh-huh.
Right. So we're seeing our main goal is success through completions.
Uh-huh.
The question we're asking now, and I think you'll appreciate this as an entrepreneur, is what about our entrepreneurs?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And so that's I think the next realm. Now we've worked with LEAP, right? Lansing Economic Area Partnership, their One and All program. We've worked with their entrepreneurial work generally. We love the Fledge, right, and the work that Jerry and his whole crew do. And so we see entrepreneurship taking off. Miles Johnson currently is going to be housed at the Promise.
Okay.
Coming up pretty soon. We just want to make sure he has a desk so he can keep working with our kids, right? So entrepreneurship is going to be a piece of this.
Right.
Now, I think the most important part is we want our kids to make the choices they want to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, you've listed so many different partners, and I know we've talked in the past about the value of community asset mapping, and even to this point, identifying outside of the assets. I think that's how you got to the element of identifying entrepreneurs or mentorship through entrepreneurship, like through Commissioner Miles. I think that's key. And again, when we talk about working together, we need to identify what skills, benefits, weaknesses we even have.
Yeah.
So we can find that common direction.
That's right.
So thank you for that. And we're going to quickly show you an interview that we did.
Shout out to City Life.
Yeah,
Love
Devin,
the city.
Devin Lovette.
Mm-hmm.
He was or is the outreach leader and also pastor there at City Life. And he's shared some things about how he works with partners and also to love the city and love the youth of our city as well. So check that out.
City Life Lansing, 8-year-old church plant launched in 2015, started in the public schools, kind of began as this movement to say, before we even had the church name, the call from God was love the city. And what does it look like to have a church that has a contextual gospel expression, but also comes with no love with no strings attached? How do you show up and be present around people? And so Jeremiah 29 has been a verse that's really spoken to us, which is, seek the welfare of the city, and in it you'll find your welfare. And so that's kind of been the heartbeat in John 1, Jesus moving into the neighborhood. And so for us, the heartbeat is always close. It's proximity, frequency leads to intimacy, and then that ultimately makes way for the good news. And so we're just a church that's trying to be faithful, love people where they are, show up in the neighborhood, show up where life exists, and be present. And so kind of the way our whole story started was before we were ever a church, we were doing tutoring in the high schools. But before that, we were music missionaries traveling, doing shows, performances. But we saw this need in Lansing that, it was 9 shootings in 6 days. African-American boys were graduating 49% from the high school. Lansing was in the bottom 5% of all school districts in Michigan. And we said, you know what, man, if there was a life-giving presence in the schools, what would that look like? How could we move the needle? And maybe it's not that we solve the issue, but maybe it's just that, hey, we bring love and see what impact can come. So it started with tutoring the basketball team, bringing Capri Suns and trying to get these rowdy boys to stay in a room because they, the school needed it. And then it kind of grew into this movement of saying, hey, how do we just show up during the day? And the powerful thing about schools is that kids are there 40 hours a week, right? It's all day. And the other crazy part is that you've got families coming there as well. You've got school events, extracurriculars. School becomes like a hub, if you will, for culture for 9 months out of the year. And so if you really want to impact a city, we thought, well, hey, you got to be close and spend a lot of time where people already are. So looks like there's a picture of me, and I can send it out if I find it, but there's a picture of me and our lead pastor, Jerome, with hair nets hanging out at an elementary school, opening milk cartons and passing out sauce packets and eating corn dogs with kids and just having a good time and being a life-giving presence. And ultimately, man, that has blossomed from this organic, let's just be there, to having now, I think we're averaging 35 volunteers a week. We do some mentoring programs. We're at every lunch in 3 schools. And then we do bookend events. So we'll do like truck, ice cream, performances, all kinds of things, beginning, end of the year. Just to say, hey, man, every human being is loved. They belong and they have purpose. And so for us, it's when we think through even the language of outreach, sometimes we don't use that, when we're outward facing with people, because the goal is that you'd be close enough to reach out, that you would live amongst, and that you would live in proximity with people. And so for us, we show up at the schools because we love people, and it's not a gospel event. It's not a, hey, let me convert you, let me preach a message to you. It's, hey, what's your name and what's your story, and do you want to eat this this cold lunch food you don't like together, and what's up, and let's talk about it. And so that's kind of been the heartbeat, if you will, for 8 years. And I'll be honest, we're not superstars at all. God is just faithful. He's just really faithful. I mean, seeing families and kids come to school, come to City Life off of this, attending church, getting baptized. And I think one of my favorite things is, I'm actually at a camp right now. I'm the MC at FCA, if any of you are familiar, but Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And through a partnership with them, we perform, do music, kind of the whole thing. We throw a concert on Wednesday nights. And they provided scholarships where we have 60 kids from Lansing Eastern right now at this camp, hearing the gospel, being discipled, asking questions, right? Getting to be around Christians, and yet also developing high level sports skill sets. And that's just one of the fruits that has come from just showing up. If I'm honest, it's nothing special. It's not because we're sweet. It's not culture. It's not anything. It's just showing up and saying, hey man, you matter. And let's talk and let's hang out. So it's cool. I kind of get to, this meeting's coming at a really cool time, because I'm sitting in the middle of the kind of culmination of an 8-year journey, and watching kids that, we've met on the block at the schools get saved last night. So all in all, man, God's awesome. We're just trying to play our part and do our role, and just show up and be near people, man, because it's kind of hard to love people from a distance,
No church or charity can do everything on its own. That's why partnerships are so important. When churches team up with other organizations, they gain access to resources, expertise, and a broader network. At Missions Filled, one of our primary roles is connecting these dots, linking churches with the partners they need to bring their visions to life. This one organization focuses on food security, but was struggling to find locations to distribute meals. Missions Filled connected them with 3 local churches that opened their doors as distribution hubs. Together, they've been able to serve over 1,000 families in just a few months. Their story highlights how partnerships can amplify impact. It's not just about pooling resources, it's about sharing a common vision for the community and working toward it together. Let me tell you about one of Missions Filled's favorite success stories, a partnership between a local church and a nonprofit focused on mentoring at-risk youth. This church had the space and volunteers, but they lacked the experience to create a structured mentorship program. The nonprofit had the expertise, but needed a location and additional mentors. Missions Filled brought them together, and the result was a thriving program that now supports young people every week.
All right. Good. Welcome back, you guys. Thank you guys for, again, tuning in with us. Again, we're here with Justin Sheehan, and we're going to talk a little more, Justin, about some key testimony that you might have from some of the youth or even parents or faculty that you might have worked with. So sure. Do you have anyone that sticks out the most?
That's the right question. I do. I received a letter 8.5 years ago. I started about 10 years ago. It's about 1.5 years in. I didn't know anything I was doing at this organization. This sure would have felt like. Right, I was a new executive director. We were an organization that we had a great momentum, but we were brand new. I was the only staff, right? I was hoping we were getting it right for our kids. And I get a letter from a scholar. And in the letter, he explains the importance of the promise to him, to his entire family, that the promise allowed him to complete at MSU in 3 years. He is now, at that point, in law school and has just published his first book called Pancakes on the Porch. Wow. And I read this letter and I think, what? This is amazing. I can't believe this is happening. And he writes a check to the promise and donates a portion of his first royalty check.
Wow. That's it.
So this is James Curry, who was in our first class of Promise Scholars, who is actually still working with us now. He graduated in 2012 from Everett and was working with the Promise now in actually writing a children's book series. Wow. And it's a pretty wild concept. He has stunned crowds and partners with some of his oratory abilities at some of our events. I think he may be a talent of a generation. And real talk, that's just one kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's more.
Taylor DeBerry.
Yeah.
Taylor DeBerry, same class, same school, Everett, 2012. She was our very first intern we ever hired. Taylor, at that point, was going to be going into social work. She learned it's okay to change your mind. She's now an entrepreneur, kicking butt, taking names, selling candles, and having ads in some of the biggest magazines in the country.
Wow.
Like it's nothing.
Right.
Like it's nothing, right? We got a young entrepreneur just kicking butt, taking names.
Yeah.
We got scholars building programs and projects that are either partnering with the Promise. We have scholars who are now executive directors of local nonprofits. We have scholars who are doctors and lawyers, but we also have scholars who really love being plumbers and pipe fitters and carpenters. And again, online entrepreneurs. When I think about, well, let me say it this way. So when I think about testimony, more than 2,000 students have set foot on a college campus or in skilled trades. We've seen more than 800 completions to date. We give them a 6-year window from graduation. So we know we have a combination of a great deal more completions on their way. But real talk, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We also have students who simply have faded because life got in the way.
Is there any elements of growth in the organization itself that you see since you've been a part of it? Because you talked about, you were there when you started.
Ooh, Adam, that's a good question. Yes, I think, in fact, growth or growing pains or struggle, depending on the season and the year. So I've been at the Promise for 10 years. Again, started as a single staffer, having to figure stuff out and do anything I could, just try to keep the lights on. We've gotten to a point now where we have a strong balance sheet. We have some full-time staff, we have some part-time staff, we have some contracted partners, and that's all well and good. But we aren't in the business of maintaining, right? We're in the business of efficacy, not even efficiency, right? I think too often we get caught up in looking at, are we an efficient organization? I'm not saying that efficiency isn't important, but efficacy. Do we move the needle in the lives of our kids to ensure more kids set foot on campus, to ensure more kids see themselves as beloved, to know that they belong in the classroom, on campus, in the community, and in their careers? And that is going to be the work of our generation moving forward, especially us older heads who need to be looking to the next generation to ask them, here's a crazy thing, to ask our scholars what they need and then to be responsive. So what has growth looked like? Growth has looked like me being broken down to my last breath in depression, reaching the end of myself, crying out to the Lord, and Him answering. Right? Growth has been my brother Larry Johnson calling me up just at the leading of the Spirit to say, Justin, and this was one of my darkest times. This was before I was diagnosed with depression, before I got any medication, anything. They said, Justin, the Lord put it on my heart, unless the Lord builds the house, those that labor toil in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It's important to remember that while we bear responsibility in this work, while we bear accountability, while we bear privilege to do this work, it is ultimately not about us, nor does it rely on us. Right? What's the statement? Work as though it relies on you, pray as though it relies on the Lord. I think it's deeper than that, because I think if it's true that unless the Lord builds the house, those that labor toil in vain, then we better look to who's leading this house, and who's building this house. And to be honest, who loves these kids more than we do?
Creator.
Their creator. That's exactly right. And so I think to know that there is love greater than anything we could muster already at work, to know that there are plans greater than ours, can give us a great deal of comfort in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of loss, in the midst of 3 years of the highest gun violence rates in the history of the city, right? And we keep moving.
Yeah.
That's why we're building programs like Lansing 360 under the auspices of the Lansing Empowerment Network. That's why we're having to partner and trust each other.
Yeah.
That's why we're having to drop our logos and our egos and sit at the tables and shake hands. And even if we don't always agree with each other, to keep walking forward anyways. Because our kids, our kids are worth it.
I do want to cut back over to one more portion of that other interview we had with City Life Lansing, because we talked about the value of spiritual wellness and mentorship and engagement. And I really want you guys to be encouraged to find ways to get into and join in the movement of supporting our youth.
So every year we throw something called Love the City Week, which is we fundraise about 40, 50 grand. Last year we did 40 grand and we did, I think it was around 80 to 100 projects, somewhere in that range, 200 volunteers. And what you do is it's an all week kind of beautification service projects in Lansing. We organize and all you do is show up at the time. Get a shirt, you'll get a team lead, you get all the instructions. We try to make it a really light lift for just a kind of a billboard to the city of, hey, we love you. And then we end it with a large party for the whole city on the Sunday after church service. So if you want to volunteer, I mean, sometimes it's what we pitch to even our churches. Hey, grab a lunch hour. If you got 30 minutes, if you got 45 minutes, come get background checked and come serve with us. Come just be in the schools and hang out. A lot of times it looks like just being safety and mom and dad in the room and making sure, kids aren't fighting and they're not arguing and kind of diffusing tension. But really it's just, hey, building relationship. That's the biggest thing. People just want relationship. So that's a really big way that I would say during the school year, kind of that helps. And then I would say the continuation of that really is what's happening now, which is block parties. So during the summer, we take our big box truck. It's like a mobile concert, pull up in the neighborhood, and we're grilling out hot dogs, burgers, handing out ice cream, playing games. And what we're seeing is all these kids we saw all year in the high schools are coming to these block parties. And then we're getting to have intentional touch points in a very different environment that leads to gospel conversations, leads to, oh my goodness, hey, you guys are a church? What? You're a church? That's crazy. Can I come on Sunday, right? And so it's cool. One of my favorite moments, we went back to one of our first places, summer place, this past weekend. And this grandma came through with her little daughter, just walking the neighborhood, saw us. And she's like, oh my gosh, I've seen you around, but I didn't know what you were. So I had to comes to a block party, shows up at church the next day with her granddaughter.
At Missions Filled, we believe that connections are the foundation of impactful work. That's why we're launching an online directory of church programs, facilities, and partnerships. Imagine a tool where churches can list their rental spaces, like gyms or meeting rooms, and nonprofits can easily find them for events or programs. This directory will make it simpler than ever for organizations to collaborate.
All right, welcome back. Again, thank you for checking in with us. As Commissioner Miles would say, tap in with us. We are back. We're here with Justin Sheehan, and we're going to have a couple of final questions regarding the promise and the work that they do and how you guys get involved. So, Justin, we just heard from City Life Lansing, and one program that I know that you guys have it's called Lansing Saves program, and this helps individuals get involved through. In particular with churches, I know that they can every fifth Sunday. Some churches that have done that, I think, are Bethlehem Lutheran Church.
They were the very first.
We share their video often.
Good.
And then Faith Fellowship is also another church. They donate every fifth Sunday to student scholarships.
Excellent.
And I just had to say that because it's something I want to honor and value. But Justin, if you have any more, whether it's how they get involved or just more about the program in general.
Yeah, so Lansing Save is a pretty innovative program. They call it a CSA, a Children's Savings Account. It's one of only a handful in the country that is formally linked to what we would call a financial readiness continuum. So in Lansing, it starts with Lansing Save. Every kindergartner in the Lansing School District gets an account open at Michigan State University Federal Credit Union. They get seed money of $5 to open the account. And then there's money from the community that is continually added over various incentives, opportunities when kids and families show up to events, when kids and families just do what's right by their babies, right? Funds are added. But the most important part actually is that we're starting to see kids, and actually some nation-leading percentages of kids beginning to save in their children's savings accounts. Now, here's the coolest part. The children's savings accounts are set aside for what we would call post-secondary attainment. So think of it as, for those familiar with 529 plans, right, or college savings plans, It is for educational expenses after you graduate.
Yeah.
Now, sure, a savings account with a few bucks in it, what does that do? Here's what we know. The Lansing Promise right now today is able to provide up to $20,000 per student in scholarships if they live, attend, and graduate within the Lansing School District boundaries. If they have a children's savings account from kindergarten through 12th grade, and if that account, and this is where the studies start getting like mind-blowing, if a student has a savings account set aside for post-secondary attainment for success after high school, right, that is set aside specifically for that, if there is between $0 and $500, let's just go with $500. If a student has $500 to the name, you know and I know that buys you like a credit.
Yeah.
But this ain't really about the money.
Right.
This is about posture. This is about thinking about my future. This is about future orientation. The reason I say that is the statistics are unbelievable. The numbers are 3, 4, 5, or 7, depending on the report you read. Students are 3, 4, 5, or 7 times more likely to graduate high school and get some kind of post-secondary credential. But you say, wait a minute, $500 doesn't do much. But it changes the mentality. Right. Also, let's be real. Sometimes these savings accounts are the first bank account in a family.
That's what I was going to say.
Because there are families who have been burned by the system. There are families who rightfully don't trust institutions. And this allows families to understand, well, they may have had historic experiences. But right now, their baby's going to be okay. Now, this is a really unique and innovative program. It's an opt-out. In other words, every student in the Lansing School District gets one, 10th grade back right now, and we add a year every year. So in 2 years, our very first SAVE students will be Promise Scholars graduating, which is wild.
Yeah.
But within that, we've seen not only incredible engagement, but we haven't even actually talked about the most important part, which I'll get to in a second, I promise. The structure of this is pretty innovative. It is housed at Michigan State University Federal Credit Union. If anybody has a student in the Lansing School District from 10th grade back, they can walk into the credit union, and if they want to give $5 or $10 or $100 to their niece or nephew or neighbor or whatever it is, they can say, I would like to put this in their account. And literally, the teller can look up the kid's name and drop it. They can't pull it out, but they can drop it in. Now, the innovative part is this, though. It's held at MSU-FCU. It's in what we call a custodial account. So it's actually in the name of the student and the city of Lansing, because the Office of Financial Empowerment is the organization that initially established it and operates it. And so because of this unique partnership, it's, one, protected from life happening, right? It's going to be set aside, and it can only be expended after they've graduated, right? And after and for educational expenses. All I'm going to say is this. Our goal is to see individual sovereignty increase. We want our kids to be able to make their own decisions about their own lives.
Since we're coming to a close, I want to again thank you for your time. Can you just share the best way they can get in contact or connect with the mission?
Absolutely.
Or support?
If people have questions about Lansing Promise, Lansing Save, or anything in between, lansingpromise.org is the easiest. We've got, we'll be building more and more Q&As and videos, but we've got our own podcast series. It's beginning to unpack some of the impact within relationships in the community. We've got some news updates. We've got some annual reports, and a lot more on the way. So lansingpromise.org.
All right. Well, again, thank you for just sharing your heart and your mission with us and our audience. We wish you all the best as you continue the mission of impacting our youth.
Thank you, brother.
And I want to encourage you guys to continue to invest into our youth and into our community and into collaboration.
Thank you for joining us on Churches and Charity by Missions Filled. Remember, we're stronger together. Keep building bridges, and let's continue filling the world with hope, one partnership at a time. This podcast is more than a series, it's a movement. Together we can empower churches, charities, and communities to create lasting change. If you're a church leader, a nonprofit director, or someone who's passionate about making a difference, we'd love to hear from you. Visit us at missionsfilled.org and stay connected with us on social media. Until next time, keep building bridges, and let's fill the world with hope, one mission at a time.